My name is Titi Adewale and I'm representing the Office of International Programs. Last year we were not able to put forth any kind of request. We missed that last year, and of course, none of us was here last year. So we have a completely new team in the office. But somehow it eluded the last team to put forth a request for this year. So it's almost like we're starting from scratch about this, and we would not even have known that there's something like this going on had it not been for Mr. Steve Hurst, who notified us of this. So thank you so much, Steve. I have actually given out the kind of budget that we have put together based on the needs of our international students. You know that on our campus we have about 550 international students from over about 50 countries on our campus. There was a time maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago when they were up to 1,000, but now it's gone down. But when the university is very serious about beefing up that number, so we get back to 1,000 and even surpass that. But when we think about the needs of our international students, the first one that is paramount on their minds is for them to have accurate information about their immigrations. About the immigration processes, because that can either mar or make a student's life in the United States. So that's the reason why a part of this budget is also devoted to the training or the professional development of the designated school officials that work with international students. Because we know that once that part is okay, we know that our students will have a wonderful, relatively good time on our campus if they don't have any problems with their immigration records. And then the other part, where we have a whole lot about programming also in there to help our students integrate into the culture, the new culture that they have found themselves in. And also to increase the interaction between our international students and the domestic students. Because that's the essence of their being here. Not just living isolated lives and just moving with their own international students, but rubbing shoulders with our domestic students. That is what we want. And that's exactly what it's called internationalization at home. Because we know that not every domestic student will be able to study abroad. But with their interactions with international students from different countries, they get the exposure. They know that the world extends beyond Texas at the end of the day. So the very first, on the budget, we have actually stated there that we will need some funding, or more funding, for check-in and orientation. Because that's our very first interaction with our international students. Granted, they would have been seeing our names on paper with emails and everything, but that will be the very first time we will be introducing our university to this student, it is important for us to make a good impression on them, and even sometimes on the parents that actually accompany the students to the United States, for them to know that they're leaving their students in the hands of capable people that will help them or move them towards graduation. So for check-in and orientation, in the past, we've only had orientation, and I have the check-in sessions, I have not really been happy with the last one we did, because we were not able to roll out the carpets for our international students. It's not that we want to be ostentatious, but at least make sure we show our university in a very positive light to our students, making sure that, because it's our first time of meeting with them. And that's why we're devoting so much into, for check-in and orientation time for them. So at this point we're asking for 11,500, not just for one-time orientation or check-in sessions, but we have orientation for them, orientation and a series of check-in sessions for them in the fall. We have it in the spring, and even though we don't have orientation in summer, we still have check-in sessions with the students that come in. So that's the reason why we're asking for that. And of course the next item on the budget speaks to the professional development of the 4 designated school officials that we have in the office. Granted, the Office of International Programs has it's a 5-man team right now, excluding graduate students, graduate assistants, and student workers. But we have 4 full-time DSOs. The DSOs are the people who work directly with immigration, the students' immigration records. Now, you may want to ask, well, what about your operating budget? Does your operating budget also does it not support things like this? Yes, it does, in a way. Well, all we're asking the committee is some more to augment what we receive from our operating budget. That way we can really help the students to have a wonderful time on our campus, be able to expose them to a lot of the American side of their education before they graduate from our university. Of course, on the 2nd of April, we had one of our signature events on this campus, and that was the Global Cultural Festival. Global Cultural Festival has become something big on campus. We had it, it was successful. The attendees were nothing less than 600 people on that day. The whole place was, people were milling in and out. And so for that particular event, we have actually budgeted. We have deviated a little bit from what we submitted. If you look at the submission, when we submitted the very first request, it said 12 to 13,000. But based on what we spent so far for 2019, it exceeded that. And that's why the numbers are different at this time. So we're asking for 17,100. And this will take care of all of these attendees. And I know that from year to year to year, the attendance keeps growing with the Global Cultural Festival. So we really want to make it the very best event on campus every year, and this would enable us to do that. If you skip to the very last one, which is other events or miscellaneous, under that we have all of the programs that we offer all through the academic year. And we're asking, so the amount here is for spring and fall and spring semesters, and we're asking for $6,000 for all those events. So now I'm going to skip back to the section for graduating students. Now, in the request, when under miscellaneous, there was a brief mention of a workshop to our graduating students called Beyond OPT. And what is that? This will be an event or a workshop helping the students know what will come after graduation for them as far as immigration issues are concerned. It has not, well, it did not happen last year, but we're hoping to have it, wherein we will bring in an attorney that will actually speak to our students and help really advise them about H-1Bs, permanent residency, and so on and so forth. So they will know how they can, the trajectory to citizenship at the end of the day after graduation. Because the country actually gives them that opportunity. But we want them to be aware of all of these things. And at the end of the day, we would like to have something like a dinner to celebrate our students when they are graduating. We've never had this on campus. But I think it will be a good thing. I mean, introducing them to the campus with the orientation, is great. But then tying all loose ends as they are graduating will also be great. To send them forth and help them to know that we wish them, the very best as they go into the world. I believe, I've always believed one thing, that a satisfied student will make a good, or satisfied students will make good alumni at the end of the day. So this is the reason why we're looking into this, to be able to offer this to the student. That way they know that, oh, we're not just, okay, bye-bye, you're no longer one of the students that we're dealing with, but to tie it up and tie up all the loose ends. So that's why we're asking for this amount for a luncheon or a dinner to celebrate their success as they are graduating. And of course, we mentioned there at the end that we will be able to, if the committee will allow us to at least give them some gifts that they can always look at and be proud of their career, their educational career on our campus. And that is in form of a sash, that will have the American flag, and, because this is the country that's hosting them. But something to remind them of, yes, you're part of us now. You've gone through this whole education here, and we're so proud of you. But something they can take away with them. And that's why we're also asking for some money towards gifts for them. Now this very last one, excursions during the spring and fall and spring semesters, they've had it in the past, but it did go away. I guess maybe because there wasn't funding for that. But for our students to be able, for us to be able to take them somewhere, help them to know more about Texas, more about the United States beyond commerce. And this is why we are asking for, funding to support excursions for them, maybe to Six Flags or to some other interesting places in Texas. Or, if possible, take them to New York and help them visit the United Nations, as a way of educating them about our country. So these are the things that we have asked for. Now, when you look at the total of all of these items, it came down to $61,100. 2 years ago, when the request was made, and I think something was allocated to the office, I think that was $55,000. But you know how inflation tends to rack things up. And then this year we asked for $65,000, but the total here is roughly $61,000. But the remaining $4,000 or $3,900 would just be something that will be kept in the coffers in case we have shortfalls while we're running some of these events so that we can support the events in that way. So this is just my brief presentation about what we're asking. And if you have questions, we'll be able to. Yes, sir?
First, I want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you. Sorry I didn't bring a PowerPoint presentation.
You have a really good distinguished budget. Things are pretty simple to read. But in the situation that we are in, student service fee, with cuts, with lack of money that we have there for everybody, I'm looking at like some of your areas, like you said, conferences and like your global cultural festival and things like that. Have you reached out before, or would you be willing to reach out to other departments?
To collaborate with them?
Yeah, so that they can assist you. So
we do a lot of collaborations all through the years, all through the academic year. This year, for example, we collaborated with Career Services for some of our programs, which I did not even put there, but that was geared toward helping students find internships. We also collaborated with Leeds this academic year for Valentine's Day and some other programs like that. But those will only go so far. But when you talk about big items like Global Cultural Festival, yes, we do collaborate with them, but the funding rests on our office for the most part. And that's why we're asking for that. Now, I mean, we're leaving everything to the discretion of the committee, but this is what we feel will help us a lot. Dr. Nisran.
Was Brian, were you finished? Did you have follow-up?
I was going to follow up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
So I guess I would ask everybody's been giving it to us. If something was cut from this budget, what area would you take it from?
If something was cut,
Or how would that affect you?
well, I would hope nothing is cut, but I know that I may not get everything, but like you said, I think the part of professional development that we have itemized there, that's fine. We may be able to squeeze something out from our other units, which is the study abroad unit, to support that. But the important thing to note is that that part of our professional development is geared towards international students. Because for study abroad students, they don't need designated school officials to know about the ever-changing immigration regulations to be able to advise them accurately. Okay, thank you.
You may have said this, and I'm sorry I came in late, but the student service, you weren't funded for student service fees last year because there was a transition and it was not any of your fault or your division, it was just a circumstance and situation. So can you just talk a little bit about how you funded these things this year, or if you didn't do them, or you know, how did you function without yeah.
Yeah, and I thought about that's a good question because many of them, a lot of the programs that we have there, some of them are new.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that programs we would like to actually organize for our students to really make them know that we value them on campus and that they matter to the university. So some of them are new or things they had done in the past and which we never did last year. Now take for example the Global Cultural Festival this year. Yes, we did fund it this year, and it was funded strictly from our own because we had some, some funding that we rolled over from study abroad that we're applying to this. But we won't have that luxury next year. The reason is study abroad is growing fast. The students are participating a lot in study abroad programs, and any student that applies for scholarship gets $1,000 of scholarship towards the study abroad. So this year, for example, we're busting at the seams to accommodate students because now the word is everywhere on campus. Everybody wants, many more students would like to study abroad. I'm envisaging that next year we will definitely have many more. And so we may not have that luxury of squeezing out this amount for Global Cultural Festival, and some other events that we put up this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, you said you have an operating income, source, right?
Yes, we do. Every department has an operating budget.
Do you generate revenue?
Do we generate revenue?
Yeah.
A little bit with our study, the OPT fee. I sit here shaking. Yeah, with our OPT fee, because the students do pay something for our services, yes. So we do have that, yes. But at the end of the day, it's not that it's a whole lot that we generate every semester.
But those type of fundings cannot be reallocated for global cultural events?
No, because they're not geared to only international students. Those fee accounts are very strict. You cannot just do anything with them. You can only do certain things with them. And so it will not support Global Cultural Festival, for example, because it's not only for international students.
Anybody else? No? Thank you, Dr. Adewale. I do want to say that since you've been here, the services that we provide to international students is noticeably improved, and I personally appreciate everything you do for our international students.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yusuf. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.